student was able to use his school-issued Chromebook to view more than 13,000 YouTube videos at school in less than 3 months. A 7-year-old girl was required to use an online tutoring platform at school and was assigned an adult tutor. Her parents were never informed that she even had an online tutor. One day, the tutor was using a cartoon filter during their session. When the filter glitched, the child saw that the tutor was completely naked. A 10-year-old girl was victimized by a sexual predator while using her school-issued Chromebook, whose efforts to discover where she lived were thwarted only by her dad accidentally discovering the messages. One moment, he was helping her with an essay. The next, he was scrolling through hundreds of messages that had been exchanged between his daughter and the predator. It began with the predator telling the girl that he loved her, and quickly became explicit, with him telling her he wanted to use a sex toy on her and described in detail how he would use it, that he would go hard and fast in her. He even joked that he was willing to kidnap her. But for her father's intervention, she could have met the same fate that thousands of children had at the hands of online predators. In fact, less than a year later, a different 10-year-old girl from the same town was kidnapped and raped by a man who had met and groomed her through the same social media platform our client had used. An 11-year-old neurodivergent boy had never had internet access before receiving his school-issued Chromebook during COVID, as so many kids did. His searches for information about Pokemon quickly and algorithmically led to anime, then pornographic anime, and ultimately to real people having real sex, which he could then view anytime he wanted at school. Neither his school or his parents were able to stop him. His parents weren't there, and the school's restrictions were inadequate. And simply not using a Chromebook wasn't an option, as now even in-person learning is online. The result? The boy developed a debilitating pornography addiction and compulsive sexual behaviors. In addition to watching porn, the boy would exchange naked pictures of himself with strangers online and even arrange meetings with strangers for sex. His addiction has persisted through inpatient treatment and even being pulled from public school and placed in a low-tech environment. The boy will struggle with these behaviors the rest of his life. These are just a very few examples of the countless harms that students are suffering every day while using school-issued devices. But there's also cyberbullying, drugs, sextortion, online scams, radicalization, explicit deepfakes of peers, exploitation of students' personal information, and the latest threat, unregulated AI chatbots, the harms of which are quickly accumulating and go far beyond cheating. Students are persistently distracted by the allure of social media, videos, games, and now AI, all engineered to elicit compulsive use, and all just to keep kids using so that big tech can harvest more and more of their personal data. Andy and I founded the EdTech Law Center to fight for these children and their families in court. In doing so, we continue a long tradition of using the justice system to protect vulnerable people from powerful predatory actors and dangerous products, from tobacco and exploding cars to asbestos and opioids. Today, the biggest companies in the world are selling dangerous digital products to schools for use by children as young as 5. Worse, they're marketing them as safe. When a child gets hurt using her school computer, these companies are quick to blame everyone else, the school, her parents, even the child herself, despite that it's the companies that design, build, market, sell, operate, and ultimately profit from these products, despite that they and they alone have the power to make them safe. When parents speak out after their child's been harmed, or because they fear she may be, schools variously humor them, dismiss them as Luddites, and even retaliate against them, tarring them as bad parents who've raised bad kids. Countless families have been driven out of their schools and school communities and denied their right to a safe public education. As parents, we find ourselves asking, why? Why is my school siding with tech companies instead of my child? It is an understandable and fair question and one with many answers. But it's not the most pressing one. The question that we should all be asking is why are tech companies selling inherently dangerous products to schools for use by children as young as 5? Shouldn't these companies design products that can be safe out of the box for students of all ages? Isn't that what the law requires? Imagine if a textbook company delivered math books randomly crammed with games, lotto tickets, notes from other students, and pictures of naked girls. Would we really say it's the school's job to inspect every book and remove this material rather than the company's job to make math books that are only about math? What if a manufacturer of playground equipment delivered playscapes missing vital parts? Would we accept it if when their swing set collapses and hurts or kills a child, they say that the harm could have been prevented if only the child had been playground awesome and inspected it first? Of course not. But how is this any different from Google telling kids that they could avoid getting hurt online by being internet awesome? Would it be okay for a school builder to build an elementary school composed of nothing but chemistry labs, with fire and tall schools, toxic chemicals, and fragile glassware, saying chemistry is essential and kids need to learn all they can before they graduate about chemistry, leaving schools to figure out how to make them safe? Certainly not, but how is that different from what Google demands of schools with its inherently dangerous Chromebooks? What about EdTech's data practices? Would we allow a massive company to assign a human observer to every child to follow them around all day and night at school and at home, to monitor and record their every move, their grades and their class participation, but also their private conversations, their journal entries, their doodles, how they write, and even hold their pencil, all while noting what tends to capture their attention, their strengths and weaknesses, their likes and their fears, so that the company can make predictions about their performance and behavior, all for undefined educational purposes? Of course not. But is that really any different when it's done invisibly through a computer, as happens on today's EdTech platforms? These examples are absurd, and yet they're not. They're simply analog approximations of the current digital reality. Schools and students are confronted with similarly absurd challenges, decisions, and dangers every single day when they log on to their devices. But it doesn't have to be this way. It's a choice. It's a choice made by big tech not to enrich children, but to enrich themselves. The digital environment at school can and should mirror the physical environment. In the physical school environment, the people students interact with, the products they use, and the information available to them are strictly controlled to help students learn while keeping them safe. Trained professionals are welcome, strangers are not. Dodgeballs are okay, while guns are not, even in the States. Vetted curriculum and age-appropriate books are let in. Pornography and other adult material are kept out. We're not asking for censorship, we're calling for curation. Curation by professionals trained in healthy child development, the same as we require in the visible space. We have to return to first principles. Schools have to stop being sites of pervasive, unaccountable corporate surveillance that directly undermines the fundamental thought that education is designed to nurture. And they have to start prioritizing student safety and welfare over empty promises of freedom. That's what children deserve and what the law requires. Returning to first principles does not mean turning back the clock or starting from scratch. There are many brilliant scholars who have spent their careers examining EdTech closely and objectively, some of whom live right here in the UK. To name just a few, there's Dr. Valerie Nunge, who examines EdTech's capture of education and who is here with us today. There's Dr. Velislava Hillman, who specializes in the datification of learning, who you'll hear from next, and as well as Dr. John Potter and Dr. Ben Williamson, the editors of Learning Media and Technology, the leading journal for critical EdTech studies. We must banish the big tech salesmen who view education as just another market to capture, and listen to those devoted to preserving education as a space to cultivate human potential, nourish democratic values, and provide for the common good. Thank you.